name's Tori and I'm the editor and founder of Bricks Magazine, and this is the I Did That podcast powered by TikTok. On this episode, we meet Eliza, the photojournalist and founder of Cheer Up Luv, a project which combines photography, activism and social media to highlight sexual and street harassment. Since its launch in 2017, she's spoken at TEDx UAL, worked with the UN and created her own group art exhibition, Hysterical. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's so good to be here.
I'm so happy because obviously we've worked together so many times over the years on different things, and you're also part of the family issue. So I thought you were the perfect person to come on our podcast, our first ever video podcast. My first question for you was, what first started your career path into photojournalism?
Well, it was a bit of a rocky road, to be honest. I never went into my career thinking that I was going to end up being a photographer, that I was going to do like any of the things that I do today. I started off studying graphic design and illustration, and then I went into set design, and then I was like determined to become a set designer and work in art department for TV and film. Like, my career path has changed so many times, and photography was kind of like a happy accident in a way. It was something that I did in my free time. It was like a passion that I had, a hobby that I was doing on the side when I was trying to break into being like a self-employed freelance person in sort of production in the TV world in London. And I was experiencing this for the first time, like the sort of unpredictability of working for a week and then not working for 3 weeks and then working for a month and then having nothing for months. And it was like in between these like jobs that I picked up a point and shoot camera and just started messing around, and that's kind of where everything began. But at no point, like at that point in time, did I think, yeah, this is going to be my career. So total happy accident, but definitely just came from a hobby.
Unplanned, but it's actually the thing that stuck.
Yeah,
it made sense for you.
Yeah, it did stick, and it was also like I was teaching myself, and it's something that I'd always done at uni and before, like as a hobby. And I was kind of always the girl at parties who had the, you know, digital camera, like doing the huge Facebook albums of like everyone would go on a night out and then wake up the next day to 400 tagged photos of themselves on Facebook.
Every single one.
Yeah, and I'm just like still living through the trauma of having to delete all of those albums now for all of my friends.
That's so funny. So you've started Cheer Up Luv, which is a photo series and a campaign and platform that allows victims of sexual harassment and assault to reclaim their power and agency, which is incredible. And you photograph them in the locations where these assaults took place. Mm-hmm. Where did you find the inspiration for this project? How did that initially come into mind?
Yeah, it was a funny one actually. I suppose not that funny, but it was one of those. I had this. Yeah, it was peculiar. I had this experience in late 2016, early 2017, when I was walking down the street and a man walked past me and he told me to cheer up. And it wasn't the first time that I'd heard that phrase. I'd heard it like in every different iteration possible. Like, you'd look prettier if you smiled. Give us a smile, love. Cheer up. So it wasn't a phrase that I was like unused to hearing. I'd heard it so many times before, but it was the first time that I reacted differently. In the moment, I felt just like angry, self-conscious, confused, like all of these emotions. And I was just like, hang on a minute, why is that okay for you to say that to me in the street? And that basically just kick-started this whole journey for me in the way that I thought about how like women and marginalised people are treated in the street, how women and marginalised people are treated publicly, and how everyone seemed to just look the other way, and that was like totally fine. And this was, you know, pre-Me Too, pre like the Harvey Weinstein scandal, pre a lot of the conversations that feel pretty normal, like that we have today. No one was really talking about it. And I just started to ask my close friends at the time if they'd had similar experiences, and they said, you know, constantly, if it's not being told to smile, it's being followed home or being touched without your consent in bars or clubs, or honked at and beeped at by moving cars. And we were talking about these things like they were the most normal thing in the whole world. And it was when I was having this conversation with some of my male friends, they interjected and then were like, what are you talking about? Like, you're taking this the wrong way, surely. Like, these are like, this is flattery, these are compliments. Like, you should feel like these people are just trying to say something nice to you, like you're just being too sensitive. And it was in that moment that I was like, wow, there's a really big disconnect here between the kind of things that like I am experiencing and my female friends are experiencing, and that what my male friends think is going on. And that was the moment where I was like, I want to do something to highlight that these things that we are experiencing are not compliments. They're not attempts of flattery. They are just people trying to use their power to make you feel small. And that was the beginning of it.
On that stereotype that if you're like femme presenting, you constantly need to just be happy, smiley, and people pleasing in the corner to basically be more perceivable and in a nice way for straight men. Yeah, that's literally what it is. Though. And I think the real issue of it is that it can happen at any time, any place, and it's. I've walked in a few times. I'm lucky that I can walk to my place of work, but it's because I have severe anxiety and I can't get on the tube. So it's like I'm already like taking little precautions to like make my journeys a little bit better when I'm feeling anxious, because every time I leave the house, I'm anxious. So it's like I find that's the hardest thing for me to do is leave the house. So even if I'm like on a really early production day, like 5, 6 a.m, there's been a couple of times when, you know, van men, very unique breed, I'd say, not to stereotype of person, there's been times at 5 a.m. when they've rolled down the windows of their van and been like, hey, love, like shouting, sexy, or like beeping. And I'm like, wow, straight cis men never sleep. They're always up, out with their egos, they don't sleep.
Yeah, and like that comment's not for you. That's not to make you feel good and to make you feel better, and like that's not like a positive start to your day.
No, it makes me feel anxious because there has been situations where I have been followed or I've been, you know, backed into a corner just on a walk, even in the middle of the day. Then I'm like, is that person going to pull over? Then I'm absolutely panic-induced. Yeah. Because I imagine it's the same for everyone, but it's like when you're also diagnosed with severe anxiety, like that little thing can really jar my safety and my journey all the way back to wherever I'm going.
And that's why it doesn't really matter like what the intention is. Like if someone is being like, oh, well, I was trying to flatter you, or like I was trying to, you know, give you a compliment. Like at the end of the day, if the person on the other end of that takes it to be threatening and is someone that has anxiety, or that's the 4th time someone has said something to them that day, like doesn't really matter what the intention is if it's being delivered in a way that is causing someone like harm. And that's kind of the whole point of the project, really, is to highlight the fact that these comments, throwaway comments that people, and more, like not just throwaway comments, it's like the whole spectrum of abuse, you know, that happens in public that people just kind of turn a blind eye to. Like it has real consequences for the people on the receiving end of it.
No, absolutely. What has working on Cheer Up Luv taught you as a photographer about the power of sharing stories?
Yeah, I mean, it's taught me everything about everything, to be honest. It's taught me a lot about photography just in itself, because I'm self-taught, and just that as a process has been really eye-opening to me. It's taught me so much about the power that you can give to the subject, like over their own story and over their own narrative, and how they can kind of take back control of that narrative. And something that was so important to me was giving that power to the survivor, and part of that is going back to the place that it happened, or like a similar place to not be triggering, and to reclaim that space like in person and take back control of the experience and just like rewrite the narrative for themselves and feel confident like owning that experience and turning something negative into a positive. And photography just seemed like the best medium to do that with, because you've got that kind of direct connection happening with the survivor, with the person. And that's why I always thought it was really important to have them looking directly down the camera. You know, so often when in the past, I guess, especially with like certain campaigns around awareness around like sexual harassment and sexual assault and sexual abuse, a lot of the images are like anonymous, or the person is like looking away, or like the figure's been like blacked out or something. Or blurred, and you know they're not looking at the camera and their identity is hidden. And I thought, as powerful as those are, there's also a power in having that like direct communication with the camera, so the viewer is looking directly into the eyes of the victim, and there's a power in like finding that connection with the story.
I think there's something really special about, as you're saying, like going back to that place where it's happened. Like things have happened to me, like even this week, like on the bus, on my bus home, and I literally called my partner and I didn't feel safe actually to not be in my headphones.
Yeah.
The text my partner being like, please see this, like you have to meet me off the bus because this person is like really intimidating me. And now I have a fear of being on the bus. And it's like, you can't, like sometimes like, just the triggering and the reliving of that trauma of feeling unsafe can really sit of that area, if that makes sense, even if it's like, and you will actively avoid that area. So even if you have to walk through, even though that might not happen to you there again, any space, I feel like you can easily just actively avoid that area. So I think it's really special that you bring them back to that place. And hopefully when they walk past, they think of maybe that amazing experience that you gave them rather than that awful thing that happened.
That's the goal really. And it is like to bring joy and positivity into an area which is usually completely forgotten about, and it's the trauma that you take home with you and you don't speak about, and you maybe like tell your friend in a jokey way on WhatsApp like, haha, this thing's happened to me, it was really scary, and you're like, lol, but then you never speak of it again, or you tell your partner or whatever, but it's always like treated as not serious, and if it is serious then it can be something that stays with you for years and years and years, and it gets built upon every time you have a different kind of experience. And it's also something which is seen to be like, you know, very depressing and horrible, because it is, like, it's a horrible subject, it's a horrible experience. Like the fact that like women and marginalised genders have to go through this on a daily basis is horrible. But I wanted to try and do something that could communicate a horrible issue in like a positive way to get people to try and engage in it, because I think that's the only hope that we have in getting people on board and like reaching out to allies and drawing people into the conversation, is by, I don't know, making it appealing and positive in some way to engage in. Otherwise it's just going to be like doom and gloom, and there's enough of that going on in the minute.
I'm also a massive strong believer that making content, if you're going to make content, I have to feel positive about things that really bring me down as a person. So like a lot of the content ideas, sometimes the bricks that I come up with actually stem from really horrific things, whether it's like how I feel so depressed about the climate crisis, or how I feel so awful that the way my trans friends are treated on the street, for example. Like I have to find ways, or people specifically, or communities that try and tackle that issue so we can highlight it, just to almost in a way make me feel better that there's actually like people actually are working to try and make change in that space as well.
Totally. And that doesn't mean just like, you know, making light of something or just like making it into a joke, because these are really, you know, real issues that deserve your full like attention. But also you've got to make it work in a way that works for you, because otherwise you're going to burn out and you're going to feel like weighed down by the topic and weighed down by the responsibility. And you've got to make it light in a way. Like, you've got to make it work for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You've also, as well as like for your photojournalism side of it, you've also now do it as a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is amazing. Can you tell us a little bit why you choose the format of doing a podcast audio platform, and perhaps what's the most memorable conversations that you've had on there?
Yeah, so it was born in the pandemic, like most other podcasts, obviously. But I really wanted a way of translating the conversations that I was having online, and also the conversations that I was having with real people, like physically.
You lost that, I guess, in lockdown.
Yeah, and also when I was like doing on shoots and I was like in real life and having these very real conversations with the people that I was photographing for the project, I wanted those conversations to be heard elsewhere. And there's only like so much that you can communicate in an Instagram caption or in however many character tweet, and there was basically room for a lot more nuanced conversation that I wasn't really hearing, that I wanted to platform, especially with people that I really respected online. And I just thought that, hey, here's an opportunity to bring these conversations like kind of out of the digital sphere and give them a bit more space. So basically the whole concept of the podcast is like myth busting harmful stereotypes around sexual assault, sexual harassment, And then just like, debunking those myths and talking through them with survivors, with activists, with artists, with people with creatives, and kind of, myth busting different stories like one by one. And yeah, I love it. I mean, it's such a different way of communicating, and it gives you more space and more time to like kind of break down issues. And also it's just like nice having that freedom to, deconstruct really harmful myths and stereotypes.
That's amazing. I don't know, I'm a strong believer our brains don't pick up, not everyone's brains pick up information in different ways. And I think having something audio based, like, I can only speak from my own experience, I concentrate so much better when I've got a headset on and I can listen to stories. Sometimes my brain, when I'm reading something, depends on what stage of my anxiety is in, actually. Sometimes can't process all that information. So I think it's cool that you do it in kind of like, you have the image for people who relate more to that and the copy that goes with it, but then you also have the audio way to communicate these different messages.
And it's great, cool. Like my grandma listens to it, but you know she can't like really see because she's got very limited vision, but my mum like set up the podcast on her iPad now, and I don't think really she really has a choice. They just come on like one after the other. And so she's
the only thing that's on her iPad.
Every time I talk to my grandma, she tells me about, which podcast she just listened to and like which issues, she was talking about. So my grandma is having like a later in life education, and I'm here for it.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. That's so important. Oh, bless her. Yeah, hopefully she'll listen to this one as well. Can you put it on the iPad?
Yeah, I'm going to put it on the
iPad. So last year as well, you also launched Hysterical with illustrator, who's also a part of the Bricks community. So it's a charity group exhibition that celebrates the work of marginalised people in their different creative practices as a form of protest, which is really cool. And I know you've done one instalment of it, and I've saw that you're now launching and looking for people for the next instalment. But I'd love to know more about the significance of why you wanted to also work in that medium and your pairing with B as well.
It's just been one of the funnest, most rewarding and challenging, but also just so rewarding like mediums to work in. I've never thought about being a curator before, or that's something that I could do, because I don't know, when you're on the path in your creative field, you're told that you should like focus on one thing only and like master your craft, and you're going to be a photographer or you're going to be a painter or whatever. But as I've kind of grown in age and also in experience, I think there's so much more value in like trying like different things and seeing what fits and what doesn't, and if you enjoy different things and not having to just like do one thing all the time. And I think I get bored quite quickly just doing like one thing. That's why I'm like, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to launch
absolutely a
newsletter. Let's try this. And it was so serendipitous. I followed B for a while because just their content is great.
Their work is incredible, isn't it? I love their illustrations so much. They have such a unique style. And I also love how they kind of also semi-look like their drawings.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's semi-intentional.
I love it.
Maybe not though, but I literally like love their stuff and been following them for ages. And then I saw them at like an event, and I just did that thing of being like, I'm going to go up and say hello to this person.
Fangirling, I follow you.
I literally. So I went up and I was like, hi, I'm Eliza, I follow you, blah, 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 blah. And B was like, hi, who are you? And not knowing that I was...
That's so funny to me now, because I see you as like an iconic bestie duo.
Well,
That's
we
so
are
funny.
now.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, they were so friendly, but they also had no idea who I was. And then I sort of explained, and I was like, oh, I do Cheer Up Luv. And they're like, oh my God, okay, I know who you are now. I just thought you were like a fan girl.
Fangirling.
Because I was definitely fangirling, but it was one of those moments where it's like, when you meet someone in real life for the first time who you've only ever spoke to online, there's that weird thing of like, do you go up? Like, do they know you? Have they seen you? Like, do you know each other? And I'm just like, I don't care. I'll go up to anyone. I don't have that. Like, life's too short. So I just went up and started chatting. And then within 5 minutes, we were like, we should put an event on together. We should do something. We should put an exhibition on. Or because both of our work, I guess, sometimes it sort of falls in that intersection of like, is it art? Is it activism? Like, who's it for? Like, is it for a traditional gallery setting? Like, maybe not. Like, is it just being seen as something known as like Instagram art? Like, who is seeing the work, and where does it fall in like what category does it fall under? And also just being like creators as well. Like, it's a funny in-between place when you're in that world of like activism and social media and creativity, and something which I'm sure you are like very familiar with as well. And we wanted to do something that like really brings all of those things together, but also like champions marginalized artists. And then that's when we got the idea of doing Hysterical, and especially using that name Hysterical because we wanted to reclaim a word that had often been used to silence and oppress like women and people of marginalized genders. And we just wanted to totally like spin it around on its head and use it as an opportunity to show work that we love but thought like wasn't getting enough airtime in like physical spaces. And yeah,
I've seen you've been doing a lot of open calls on TikTok for people to get involved. So you get you get submissions, and then you get to select and create from the open calls. So hopefully you're meeting probably people that maybe are completely unknown to you until so it kind of branches it out a little bit more, less gatekeeper.
Very much so. That's like the whole point, like an ethos of it was to kind of put it out to the community and like see what kind of came back. Because we also, right at the beginning, we were just like, is anyone going to be interested in this? And we
had such an amazing turnout, weren't you?
Yeah.
When is the next one?
So it's going to be Women's History Month again this year, and it's going to be like mid-March. We've got loads of really exciting announcements coming up, and we've just closed our open call, had like over 200 submissions.
And the first one, I know you're really vocal about this, but you applied for funding and then you didn't get it.
Yeah.
But then you did it anyway. And I just wondered what your thought process is of that for people listening, because I don't know, we're very pro apply for grants and this, that and the other, but it's like what is it actually going through that grant process, doing all the work for it and not getting it? And then how did you get out of that to make it work?
Yeah, I think we went into it really naively at first. We just thought like, how hard can it be? Like putting on an exhibition, like how expensive it's going to be? Probably going to be fine. And we applied for funding quite late. I think we had like 8 weeks or something till the show. So we definitely applied for it a bit late, but you know,
you learn.
You live and you learn. And we thought we did like a great application and all of this stuff, and then found out like a month before that we got denied our funding.
We're briefly interrupting this podcast to tell you about the new features on TikTok so you can level up your creative career and do it with TikTok. TikTok Creator Marketplace, or TTCM, is the official one-stop shop to collaborate with brands on TikTok. It's designed to help you from start to finish when working with brands. TikTok is committed to rewarding creativity and equipping creators with the best tools to find their community, grow their careers, and unlock exciting opportunities. As a creator on TikTok Creator Marketplace, you'll be discoverable to brands around the world, as well as being able to receive invites for campaigns, create your branded content, and of course get paid. To check out TTCM, head to Settings, then Creator Tools, and scroll down to the Creator Marketplace to submit your eligibility. Once you're in, you'll see banners at the top with links to talks, webinars, or videos to help you make the most of TikTok Creator Marketplace. To find out more, visit the brand new TikTok Creator Marketplace Academy. And now, back to the podcast. Not enough people speak about like when you do actually fail and not get what you want. So how did you overcome that? What was the process?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of trial and error. There was a lot of being like kind of rock bottom and then like picking yourself up by your bootstraps, like all of that stuff. We were just kind of were like, okay, we just got to keep the ball rolling. Like, so we had setback after setback after setback. We had like an initial gallery space, and then they pulled out last minute, and then we had to find a new gallery space.
So the gallery pulled out as well.
The gallery pulled out as well, and it was a free gallery. So then we suddenly had no gallery, and also the potential of having to pay for a gallery. And
which
then,
is so expensive. No one knows how expensive it is to do that. It's so much money.
Yeah. So we were in this position where we were suddenly like, okay, like the show must go on, but as it happens, we haven't got a space, we haven't got any funding. We've just got a lot of artists, and you know the expectation that this thing's going to happen. But we were like, it's going to happen. Whether like whatever happens, we got to make this happen. And somehow we managed to like find another non-profit gallery space. Like it wasn't, you know, completely free, but it was cheaper than everything else, anything like commercially, which is just, yeah, as you said, a joke. And then we also decided to launch a fundraiser, which we weren't planning on doing initially because I think we felt kind of weird, like asking our communities
I've
for
always
money.
had a massive complex about that.
Yeah.
Like massively. And I've always had a massive complex of charging for things as well.
Yeah.
And then I've really had to get myself in a mindset of being like, I'm not on salary. And the amount of time and energy I also work to put in for free, if I'm asking for £2 to come, is it balanced? And I've had to try and make it affordable. And also ticketing low income is also a great way of doing it, giving free spaces when you can afford it. It's great. There's ways around being able to be accessible, but still also valuing your time as a creative and your time you put into that as well.
So that's what we did with the events as well. And like all of the events, it was raising money for charity. So like none of the money from the events was even going to covering the cost of the exhibition.
You still felt bad ticketing?
No, we didn't feel bad ticketing because we were like, this is just pure like money going to charity, so that's fine. But we did like low income like price tickets and stuff like that as well, just to try and make it as accessible as possible. But yeah, when it came down to it, we had like 4 weeks till the show. We'd secured a space, we didn't have any funding, and we were just like, we've just got to do it, because if we don't launch a crowdfund, like it's too late to go to any people for partnerships and sponsors. Like we just got to go at it with everything that we have, and then just like hope that people don't hate us for asking for money, which is ridiculous when you think about it, because you're not just like pocketing it, you're actually working really hard to like put on like a whole thing of events and an exhibition, and you're kind of ploughing that money like straight back into, I suppose, like the community in a way. But it was like weird at first, because it was like we both had this complex where we were like, oh well, we can't like ask for money, like why would anybody want to, you know, do that? We just felt really weird about it. But then as soon as we did it, it was clear that people actually really wanted to support this exhibition. And then
knew it was important, and the messaging was there, and it amplified the correct people. So.
Yeah. And then we sort of, just by like the skin of our teeth, managed to sort of cover our costs, like just with like purely the crowdfunder alone. And also we were just like, you know, had merch when we were there, selling all of our wares, like just trying to, do everything that we could.
And now, so you're doing the second one. Are you going down that funding route again, or have you decided to keep it in the community and do fundraising?
So we are doing all of the things this year. We've done Arts Council again, like waiting to hear back, so I won't badmouth them. Arts Council again.
People say this is bad luck. Is it bad luck?
What, crossing your fingers?
Yeah.
I have no idea, but I do it all the time, so maybe I should stop.
Okay, so we won't do that. We'll touch wood.
Yeah. We're doing Arts Council again. We're like reaching out to brands as well who like align with the like Hysterical ethos, or just brands who would, you know, fit with maybe like some of the events that we're doing. And we're also doing a crowdfunder. We're doing a actual fundraising event in the gallery space beforehand, which is going to be like a whole series of performances and talks and like merch and gifting.
Incredible. Yeah, that sounds great. So much work.
Yeah.
But really, really important work. So well done. That's amazing that you've managed to like go through, both of you, all those hurdles, but still make it happen. Because honestly, no one shares how, like, the exact A, B, C. They just see the promotional poster
and the finished
cute
product.
And the finished product, but like don't actually see the graph that went into making that happen, right?
Yeah.
So well done.
Thanks. I'm with you in that. I kind of believe in transparency. We thought that was like really important to kind of fill people in on the whole way through, because, you know, it's actually not helpful to anybody if you just show the finished product and you're like, this is the thing, look how perfect it is. Like that doesn't help anybody. Like it's really important to show your workings and to show your steps, I think, and to be like, these are all of the mistakes that you can potentially make, that we made, and, you know, because there were many, and now
I want to hear those things though. That's the thing. That this is why we started this podcast, was just kind of be like, I want to know the nitty gritty of like the actual, how did this came to be, because it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
Like it's so hard, and people just see again the very polished Instagram post that's just you know, the end result, and not sharing like the actual obstacles or how you overcome it, and the resilience you actually have as a creative to do your passions.
Yeah, I mean, all of the things go wrong. Like everything that could have gone wrong could have gone wrong. Yeah, it did go wrong.
I think mistakes and even things that are out of your control, it just only helps you in the next production to be like, wait, this happened, what's our backup? It's like always constantly having to risk assess. That's
exactly kind of what we're going into this year now, because we've made all the mistakes. We know that it's going to be like a bumpy road and it's not just going to be smooth sailing. We're a lot less naive, I suppose, about like all of the different things that it takes to pull off and put something together like that, because neither of us had ever put on an event before.
Yeah, it's more than just, printing a few things and sticking it on a wall, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's a lot more than that.
The admin
is insane.
And the organisation, I mean, that's where B comes in. They're great with that. and I'm just like the hype man. I'm like, woo, it's going to be great.
What is something about the creative industry that no one prepared you for, and how did you adapt to that? Or overcome it?
I suppose like how much you have to like back yourself and how much you have to put yourself out there. Like you really have to be your constant cheerleader the entire time.
It's really hard, isn't it? Like I think a lot of us creatives are quite self-deprecating and find that really hard to do.
And it's the thing, like naturally as an artist or a creative person, there is this like, especially being British as well, there's this natural sort of self-depreciation and kind of you kind of become very accustomed to, especially at art school and stuff, of like, oh yeah, it's shit, or like, oh I did this, oh it's crap, or no one's gonna, sorry I'm swearing all over the place now, but it's like...
No, you can say crap.
Okay, that's fine.
It's fucking crap.
But yeah, you become used to just sort of being like, oh, this is terrible and no one's gonna see it and whatever. And then suddenly you have to go into the real world and be like, okay, well now I have to really back myself and make a living and convince people to work with me and become a sort of... pitch and become like a self-promoter and a networker and all of these things, which up until that point, like life has not prepared you for whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that for me was a learning curve. And luckily I'm quite a sort of outgoing person generally. I like talking to people and I like going out and meeting people and stuff, but it's still a muscle that you have to like sort of learn, and a muscle that you have to constantly like refine's not the right word, but it's something you have to practice.
It's something you have to practice, and I think you have to do it. You have to remind yourself, and you're never an expert on it. That's what I think. Is like it's something you're constantly having to work on.
Yeah, constantly. It's just it's a work in progress, but you also constantly have to like put yourself out there, like, and that in itself it can be really demoralizing when you don't get feedback, when you just get turned down from things.
So that's the thing that upsets me the most, is not hearing anything.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm fine if you want to reject it.
Yeah.
I've got used to the rejection.
It's just the ghosting as well.
The ghosting, when I'm like, but I put your logo in my pretty deck and I did all of this.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, and you ghosted me.
Yeah.
Or do you sometimes go through the process of like actually chatting about it and then they just disappear?
Oh yeah.
Like big brands though.
Yeah. I've gone to like stages of being like, oh, we're going to do this tomorrow, and then it doesn't happen, and you never hear from that person again, and you've got like a bunch of people signed up who are like, we're going to go and be there with you to do the thing tomorrow, people that you have asked like to assist you, or people that you've asked to be involved in a project, and the organisers or production or whatever, the brand just is like, sorry, cancelled, or no explanation, or suddenly there's no budget, or suddenly ghosted.
Yeah, and so I don't think people realise how much it takes to put a pitch deck together. So when they ask you for a brief, they say, actually, this is great, and they want to know more. They demand like certain bits. They're like, we need to see this, and this. Can you put it in a pitch deck? Who's involved? And it would take like a good few days to just do it and design it and send it nice.
Yeah.
And then I don't get anything back, and they're like, sorry, we've got no budget. And I'm like, why did you make me run through all those hoops then?
And that's also like what I didn't realise when I was first starting off at, and also what people don't tell you is that is work, and those are hours that you should be being like fairly compensated for.
Yeah.
Like putting a pitch deck together is hard. It takes a lot of time. It can take days. And if you just don't hear anything back, or the project does go ahead but like those hours aren't accounted for, like that is work that you are doing, and I didn't realise that at all. And even now I have to remind myself, like, don't put too much time into something if, like, pre-production wise, if you like it, if there's no, you know, agreement that it's going to go through.
I used to send everything in one email, just with everything, the deck, everything. I don't do that now. I try and get a meeting first.
Yeah.
Just to see what they're doing. Just to see what's your goal. They all have these quarter goals. They have like a quarter two, or annual goal.
Yeah.
This year we're focusing on music. So then you're like, okay, cool. They're focusing on music. Let's pitch something music. So then I'll just write it, just a few sentences, being like, thanks for this meeting. I actually had a project that I wanted to, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll explain it. And then I'll be like, let me know if you'd like more information, if you're interested, or a budget breakdown if you have it.
Mm-hmm.
And then depending on how they get back to me, I'll either put like a PDF, a short PDF though, not a full PDF. I was like, this is a snapshot taster.
Yeah.
And then if we go through another stage, or then they, you know, say they have budget, or we're looking to do this, then I will put my soul into it, and then it usually gets signed off. But I think just putting everything in an email, I am mugging myself off.
Yeah, no, and it's so demoralising as well, because I'm so used to doing that, and especially working with other creatives and like collaborators and stuff, and we'll put our heart and soul into this PDF, put it out into the ether, and hear nothing back, and then just be like,
yeah, and then
all of those Zoom calls.
You work really hard on a writing pitch, they say no, and then you'll find it on the website 2 weeks later written by someone in-house. That happens all the time. It's so bad. I actually want to look a bit more into that, about like the legal thing of that, of whether there is some loophole where you can say that's copyright, or
what happens with design too.
I don't know what it is. I need to research a bit more into that, because I've seen so many like writers in such an underpaid sector anyway get hooked by that. Yeah,
well, it's the same with like, you know, like internal competitions and stuff. Have you seen that, where brands will be like, oh, can you design a new shoe for us or whatever, and then people will send in their designs, and then they won't hear anything back, and then the design will be on a shoe like a year later.
Yeah, I've heard of things like that, like those design competitions you do for free.
Yeah.
And then...
And also, like artists, creatives, like sending in ideas, not hearing anything back, and then next thing you know, that idea is being taken and run with, and you've had no say or involvement in it.
You time and energy to even come up with that concept, and it's already been done in-house.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's like learning things like not like being precious with your time, and how much like being able to like weigh up the scales of like how much you should dedicate to something before / like mid during conversations with brands and stuff. It's a learning curve, and it's still really hard to know.
That my friend, this is more in like relationships, that my friend told me this, but I think it applies sometimes to the scenarios with clients. So she was like, if you always have a relationship with someone, that you always give 80 and they give 20, and the energy balance is off, you're going to feel exhausted and resent that person, the relationship's going to break down. But sometimes it's allowed to shift. So you can give 80 if they're in a bad place, but then as long as they give you 80 back at some point and it's still balanced, it's fine. So I tried to practice that in my business. So if a client comes to me and is like, I want you to write this, like marketing thing, I'm like, I'd love to. I love the brand, but you've never supported us. You've never sent us samples for shoots. You've never, I highlight it, and I'm like, you've never funded us or done a project with us, so I can't write about something for free because you're not an existing advertiser or sponsor in our network to help me fund my community. And I think that's a really important thing, is that to know is like when to know your worth of how much you're going to give someone. If the percentage level's off, you don't need to send them a whole pitch deck because they've given you 0%.
It's a good way. That's a good way. That's an easy way of breaking it down.
I don't know if that's helpful, but
that is
that's
really
what I've
helpful.
started doing. And it's helped me a lot, I think. My last question, as this podcast is part of the Bricks Learner platform, which is our alternative education platform that tries to educate and make the creative industry more accessible. This could be anything, but could you share with our listeners something that you've learned this week?
I've learned this week that the public really gone wild for Prince Harry.
Oh my god! So I was absolutely shook out of my. Well, am I? No, I'm not surprised.
I was.
He's the best-selling. So let me get this
Yeah.
up. Best-selling non-fiction author, like quickest of all time.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, he's like the bestseller for the entire year, and it's only January. Anyway, I don't know why I'm talking about the Royals because really don't care. But I was like, that's been the main thing everyone's been talking about this week, and I'm just like, oh, it's really saturated the media at the moment.
That I don't know if it's real or not. If it's a scam, great. I think it's hilarious. But he's done like a quote in the book, and it's like, if you want to get with me, you better make. And literally quotes the Spice Girls lyric in the book
on purpose.
And I don't know if it's real or not. I'm not buying the book, but I'm sure if it's the bestseller, someone's bloody bought it. I can ask.
Everyone's buying it.
And made a TikTok about it, and then someone commented, and I loved it, and it was like, my man is ginger and Posh Spice at the same time. Which I really loved, but yeah.
I've also seen TikToks of people who are obviously anti, like buying like 10 of the books and then like throwing them in the fire and being like, one way to solve the energy crisis. And I'm like, you're just burning money. Like, this doesn't...
That makes no sense. I'm sorry. People are silly burning things. We were literally talking about this morning. Like, burning things is just the most unsustainable thing ever.
As a burning things as a form of protest to like brands and stuff, I'm just like, I understand you're trying to make a point, but it's really ineffective.
Yeah, it's dumb. That's what we learned. It's really dumb.
It's dumb.
Okay, thank you so much. That's the end of our serious part of the podcast, and we're going to end with the fun segment. Now that I've, interrogated you about your life.
God, the last question, Tori, really put me on the spot.
Okay, it's fine. So we're going to end with a round of no explanation answers.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you some quick fire questions, and you can give your answer without explaining yourself.
Okay.
So I assume it's quick.
Just like one word.
I think so.
Okay.
What's your favourite way to unwind post-shoot?
Bath.
Here? No. If you were an item of clothing, what would it be?
Socks.
What was your childhood dream job?
Illustrator.
Interesting. That's cute. I say it's cute because be the bestie.
Yeah.
Illustrator.
Projecting a lot of childhood goals there.
Maybe you're soulmates. I like that. What's your favourite TikTok trend right now?
I like the one where maybe it's not that new, but the one where the mum or dad gets changed into like the younger person, like the daughter's or son's or siblings' clothes.
So what you're saying is you like being on MILF TikTok?
If that's what that is, then yes.
I respect that.
That was such a millennial way of explaining a TikTok.
Like, same, I can't wait until Mother's Day every year. When everyone posts their mums.
Oh.
Okay, seriousness. If you could have anyone as a guest on the Cheer Up Luv podcast, who would you invite on?
You.
Are you just saying that?
You've not been on it.
I've not been on it. What is your... Oh my God, I read this as what is your go-to karaoke... karate move. And I was like, wait, no, that's not what it is. It's, what is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh my God, I'm really honest.
Can you sing it?
You know the one that had like okay, this is a really old reference. You know the game that was like Rainbow Unicorn, and it was like a YouTube game? I don't know what it was. Anyway, there's an Erasure song, like Always I Want to Be With You, that was like the backdrop for that unicorn game. Does anyone know what I'm talking about here? No. Okay.
I'm looking at the makeup artist who was telling me they were a PC gamer this morning, and they're like,
It was this like old school game. I'm really showing my age here, where it was like a Rainbow Unicorn, and it had this Erasure song that was the soundtrack to.
Erasure song? Like
a song
Erasure?
by Erasure, the band.
I thought you meant like erasure, as in like they've erased the gays. Like I thought you meant like it was like there's Erasure.
Oh my God, no.
And I was like, why are you saying this
so
badly?
deep? Oh my God, no, literally the band Erasure. Oh my God.
Oh God,
this is a nightmare.
So anyway, it's a unicorn song
it's a unicorn song.
on YouTube about Rachelle.
I'm literally just trolling you now. This is
What was your last impulse buy?
a pair of fluffy, really inconvenient Ugg boots.
I love fluffy Ugg boots.
Yeah, a really, really inconvenient and probably not very useful.
In England when it rains all the time.
Not very useful shoe
They're
choice.
so comfy though. Like the Ugg, this isn't an ad, but the Ugg slippers that I love them. We wear them all the time in the office.
Yeah, they come back in a big way.
Ever. And Ugg boots, they're in. Okay, what object do you misplace or lose the most?
I'm actually very good at not losing things. I'm just going to back myself here. Take this opportunity.
I wish. I could
Sorry,
do like that.
the moment I leave, I'm going to have lost all of my belongings.
Okay, where would you most like to travel to next?
I'd love to go to Korea. I've never been to Korea before.
So, this is funny. These questions are so funny. I'm going to karaoke tonight with my friend who's visiting, who moved to Korea in the pandemic.
Wow.
And we're going to karaoke. It's a bring your own booze
So
karaoke Indian restaurant. And we discovered it because we walked past and everyone was dancing on the tables at this restaurant. We were like, what is this place?
Oh my God, that sounds
So
amazing.
But that is mine too.
Really?
I'm going to try and visit her. I want to get to South Korea to see
really
while
wanna
she's
go.
still living there, yeah.
I've always wanted to go there. It just seems like such a fun and vibrant and really interesting part of the world.
And the food, apparently.
Yeah, the food.
amazing.
I'm obsessed with Korean food.
I like going places that have good dinner. And that's
a good rule. I think that's a good
Yeah,
baseline
I like
rule.
to eat.
I respect that.
Which fictional character do you relate to the most?
Winnie the Pooh.
Okay. You're not allowed to explain, so I can't explain. What are you most looking forward to this year?
Hysterical, but then I'm just plugging.
Stop plugging. This is about us and bricks and TikTok. No, I'm joking.
I'm gonna have to say Hysterical.
Yeah.
Or my birthday. That's always a good day.
Are you gonna do one this year or two? Or you do one a year?
One a year for Women's History Month, but like running over 2 weeks of lots of events throughout the weeks.
Oh, I like that. So it's not a one day.
It's not like a one day wonder. It's like 2 weeks, like a load of events, lots of fun things to come and get involved with.
Mm-hmm. Last question. Do you like my Teletubby outfit?
Yes, because you are the Tinky Winky to my Dipsy.
She's flirting with me.
Oh my God, I so am.
You're flirting. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I can't wait to go on yours.
Yeah, it's been so fun.
Yeah, I've had such a nice time. It's nice to finally... We've done so much editorial bits. Mm-hmm. And it's nice. But I don't know, the fashion shoot was fun.
Yeah, that was so
together for the
fun.
family issue.
I love that. I still love those pictures.
Yeah,
they're like some of my favourite pictures.
It's nice to do lots of different things in this... Amongst these four walls, we turn this room into a podcast studio. We rented a carpet, we do fashion in here.
So versatile.
Yeah, we're so versatile. Thank you so much for coming on. And before we sign off, would you like to explain where we can follow you?
So yeah, you can find me on cheeruplove.com or TikTok _cheeruplove, and that is LUV, importantly. And then you can also get involved with Hysterical by following us on either of those platforms, finding us on the website, and also checking out our support crowdfunder page for the exhibition.
Amazing. Yay! Thank you so much for coming on. Are you a hugger?
Oh, definitely.
Yay! so much. Thank you for listening to the Bricks I Did That podcast powered by TikTok. Don't forget to follow the Bricks Learner platform to get 50 plus creative opportunities to your inbox every Wednesday. It's free for 30 days or as little as £2.50 a month on our low income version. Thanks so much again, and don't forget to follow us on TikTok at Bricks Magazine. See you later.